Hi everyone, welcome back to Vlogmas, where I've been posting a video every day in the month of December. Today is a video I do every year, and that is to check in on my goals for the year and how they went. Now this year it's going to be kind of an interesting spread over a few days because I'm going to be doing a video on my 2022 reflections using that book that Moxie Life sent with their orders this year. But I think that that's a little different than looking at specific goals. And I'm also going to be taking a look at the overall one little word project and whether or not I'm going to do that next year and how I think it worked for me and whether I think the class is worth it. Those are both coming up as well. But first and foremost, I wanted to just go through my goals kind of in a practical sense and talk about how they went and how I feel about them. The other thing is that I will be going over my 2022, my bucket list for the year, because it does tie in very specifically with these goals. I'll be doing that in my video on New Year's Eve when I talk about my bucket list for 2023, even though you'll probably get some of that as we go through this. Anyway, let's go right into it. First and foremost, the goal setting system I used this year was the Moxie Life. I was using the undated 6-month planner. This is my second one. I already used the first one. I can link down below the mid-year check-ins that I did. I'm not going to be doing the compass assessment or anything. I'm just going to go through the 8 categories that Moxie Life has, which are personal, fun and recreation, work and learning, family and relationships, health and wellness, spiritual and personal growth, financial and physical environment. I'm going to go through those categories and I am going to tell you how I feel like those goals went so that I can be in a good place to set my new ones for next year. And we're going to start with personal. My focus for my annual goal was self-care through hobbies and boundaries. And my main kind of goal for the year was to use my hobbies to bring life and personality to every room in the house. And I think I did that. Now, my original thought on this was to add my artwork on the walls. That is not something I did as much as I would like, but I do feel really good about where the house is right now. There are rooms that feel totally finished, except for maybe some art on the walls. And I think that the hobby of plants and I guess a hobby now has become my interior design of my house, which was sort of an unexpected hobby, but I really feel like our house feels like a home and it doesn't just feel kind of random. It feels purposeful and it has the spirit of not only me, but of my family everywhere in this house. This house, to sound cheesy, it sings of our family. So I think in some ways this goal did come to fruition, but not in the way I necessarily thought it would at the start of the year. On this list, I had some smaller items that I wanted to, habits and routines and hobbies I wanted to nurture throughout the year. So let's talk about them. On the habits and routines side, there was daily planning, manicures, and houseplant care, and on all of those, they have all become a habit for me. I get manicures every 3 weeks now. Houseplants, I have now finally figured out a way to not only have houseplants, but keep them alive on a regular basis, so that's going well. And as for daily planning, I had originally wanted to do some journaling and everything else, and that, what I've basically done is whittled down what's working for me into, distilled it and thrown away the rest and been okay with it. And then for hobbies to cultivate and try, this looks very different than what I put at the beginning of the year, and how it's turned out at the end of the year has become very different. But I'm okay with that because it's hobbies. Wok cooking was one of them. I did more of that at the beginning of the year, but as I felt shittier and shittier as I've gone, I'll talk more about dialysis and kidney failure when I get to health and wellness, but it will flavor everything. I am in kidney failure and I'll be starting dialysis in January. Wok cooking and learning to do the breath of the wok was just, I didn't have the energy either mentally or physically for that over the second half of the year. I do want to keep doing it. So if I start feeling better when I'm on dialysis, maybe I will. And I do have recipes I really like, but it did not take as big of a focus this year as I had hoped it would after the second half of the year kind of kicked in. Gardening with the green stalk has been really fun, but again, something I did in the spring and in the early summer, and I kind of did not have the energy for it the second half of the year, but I'm looking forward to bringing it back. It's more of a seasonal hobby, so I'm okay with that. Taking care of the plants all year round has been sort of the other hobby, and that one has been going well. Large-scale painting, that's the dud. I still have not finished the painting I started, and I'm just not sure when that's I want to do it, but it just, until I feel the urge to do it, it's not something I'm gonna make myself feel bad about. And then finally, one little word. I'm gonna do a video reflecting on this. I talked about it already in this video, but I did complete it for this whole year. And I have never done a year-long project like that. Like, I have actually done it for the whole year, so I'm very proud of myself for that. Definitely probably one of the top wins of this category, besides getting manicures, because that has actually really helped my state of mind. I was able this year to really spend some time helping, like, doing things that make me feel like a whole person, and I want to carry that forward while not putting such an emphasis on it into next year. Overall, I think that this goal was successful. Bits and pieces of it, maybe not so much, but as a whole, I feel like I did what I set out to do, even if it looks a little different than what I thought, which, when does something look exactly the way that you think? Fun and recreation. My focus was to bring more adventure and rest into my life. The main focus of this was to schedule and take regular time off. And that is something I did. I was able to take some time off, some vacations, some staycations. I took a monthly 3-day weekend, something I want to continue into the new year. I also took Fridays and Saturdays off. I thought that it was going to take me like half the year to even get to that point, and it didn't. It only took a few months. I still work every once in a while on Fridays, but generally speaking, I've had Fridays and Saturdays off almost the entire year, and I had taken a 3-day weekend at least once per month all year. I did get some time with each person individually. RJ and I have probably been the most successful at having at least once, if not twice a month, having a little lunch date on his lunchtime at school, which both makes me happy that my 16-year-old wants to have lunch with me, and also lots of fun. Jess and I have been on plenty of date nights. We've taken Layla out. We need to get in a better rhythm of it, but we have made some improvement there. So I think that when it comes to rest and taking time off, I think that I nailed this goal. I think the biggest place where I didn't get as much as I wanted was adventure. Some of that was because of the kidney failure. Some of that was because of having a dog and not knowing how to manage her while we went on adventures. And there were some other extenuating circumstances. It's been a pretty rough year for my extended family in terms of sickness and death. So that's been kind of difficult. But I feel, again, like the spirit of this goal, I've nailed it. So again, something I want to carry over into the next year, but at a kind of pull back just a little bit because there's going to be other things taking priority. Work and learning was one of those categories where I kind of went into it a little not sure what I wanted to do. Originally, my goal was to complete a surface design portfolio. Then it became a portfolio, an asset library, and then it was reprioritize my plan with new expectations, goals, and boundaries. And ultimately, I don't feel like I did anything I set out to do in this category. Bits and pieces of it here and there. And I have things I'd like to move forward with, but with all of my health issues this year and all of the focus on personal stuff and everything else, doing kind of extracurricular work stuff sort of fell by it was one of the first things to go. This is definitely a category that I feel like I did not do what I set out to do. I did not finish what I set out to finish, and I didn't really have the focus that I wanted. If you go back and you look at my first planner, it's a different goal than here. I changed it mid-year, and then I changed it again in the quarter. I feel like this category was just sort of like flitting around with whatever one thing from work I needed to focus on rather than an overall goal. So that is something I definitely want to revisit when it comes to 2023. For family and relationships, my focus was communication and quality time. And the two bits I had on here were implementing weekly planning and check-ins and coffee dates with friends twice monthly. And then I also added for Q4 to do some holiday outings or having like some kind of holiday get together, which that last one, I'm still not sure if we're doing or not because I'm filming this mid-December. But the other ones, I would say that I probably got about halfway there. When it came to the family stuff, family communication and check-ins, we have been kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back all year. So there has been progress made, but it has been really difficult progress to make, and it has been difficult progress to maintain. So definitely something I want to focus on with the next year. The coffee dates with friends, I've been exhausted, and there have been times where I flaked out. There have been times where I haven't had the chance to make them. It is just something that I need to make more of a priority. So not feeling super fabulous about this goal. I feel like there was progress made, but like in both senses, it was hard fought progress, and it hasn't stuck the way that I wanted it to. Probably because of what went on with the next goal, health and wellness. The focus was to be as ready as possible for transplant. and I wanted to improve my compliance in the following areas by end of year 2022. So how do I talk about this goal? Because I came into this year thinking that I would continue to feel like crap, but not be in the final stages of going into dialysis. I really thought that. I did not expect that I was going to be ending this year knowing I was starting dialysis at the beginning of the year. So some of this has kind of changed. But I think the interesting thing is that with dialysis coming, I don't feel like I'm in a holding pattern anymore. Like I still want to be compliant for a transplant, but the compliance I'm going to be following is going to be specific to dialysis. And rather than doing it for some mythical hope to get a transplant one day, I'm doing it because I'm meeting with my dietitian and my nurses and my doctor once a month to see how I'm doing on dialysis. Much more accountability there. So it's going to be a different beast this year, but I can't blame everything here on going into end-stage renal disease, but what I can say is that some of the areas I've had the hardest time with, like exercising, I probably can chalk up to the fact that I haven't been eating very much because my appetite has been down and I've been exhausted. I'm in bed for like 12 hours a day and it doesn't even feel like enough. There are reasons beyond some of this. A lot of these things here are things that a healthy person would do, and I am not healthy. My body is actually dying right now. So that is the kind of context I want to go into this conversation with, because the Cindy that set all of these out a year ago is not the same Cindy right now, purely in terms of how I am physically feeling. Number one, regular movement. Yes, I did improve that, and I can put it all squarely at the foot of Layla. Having a dog and having to walk her 3 times a day. Now, I don't walk her, Jess and I. Jess walks her a couple times a day. I usually walk her once a day, but even having that is more movement than I was doing regularly. So, hell yeah. Start good. Exercise 3 times weekly. No. The Peloton is great, and I really want to get back to using it, but it has been very hard to find any sort of energy to even take my clothes off and put on my pajamas, let alone get on the exercise bike. So I'm hoping that dialysis gives me a little bit more energy so I can maybe do low impact rides a couple times a week. My sister swears I will feel a little bit better once I'm on dialysis. No more soda. No. However, my doctors were like, your phosphorus is low, have less dark soda, and if those are the only calories you can get in a day, then those are the only calories you can get in a day. So soda has been one of those things that has kind of pulled me through on days when the thought of solid food just makes me want to die. I do want to give it up, but halfway through the year I realized that was kind of a losing proposition for this year. Daily outdoor time, see what I said before about walking Layla. So yes, consistent bedtime, getting there, but there have been nights I'm trying really hard to get to bed early enough, especially since I sleep so much now, or I try to. But in the evenings when my nausea really hits hard, and it can be really hard to fall asleep. So working on it. More fruits and veggies? Yes. Again, it's more like the same fruits and veggies when I'm okay. I'm on a broccoli kick right now and I'll eat broccoli for 2 meals a day. But it has to do with my appetite. Not the best progress, but there has been progress. 100% medication management. More like 90%. Kidney brain fog has made it so that I have fucked up. Probably a couple times a month I'll fuck up. That's not good. I need to keep working on that. 100% blood pressure tracking. No. And I do need to work on that. 120 ounces of water daily, most days. Not every day, most days. And as I can tell you right now, that's one thing being in kidney failure is really making obvious, is when I'm not drinking enough water, I really feel it. And it doesn't take very long to go from oh, I need a drink to I think I'm gonna fucking die. I don't know what's going to happen next year, because once you've been on dialysis for a while, you stop peeing and then you're on an extremely limited fluid intake. I haven't even wrapped my mind around that yet. And then sunscreen daily. Hell yes, I fucking protect my ass from the sun, especially since I'm closer to it because I live in the Mile High City. When it comes to health and wellness, I feel like I don't even know how to score myself on finishing this goal. I am still alive and I am feeling positive about going into dialysis, and I think that is the best outcome of this year. If it was going to end with me going into dialysis, I'm going into it not wanting to hide from my doctor. I feel confident talking to my doctor. I don't feel like I'm going to get in trouble or get a scolding. And I think that that's a good place to end this on. So we'll take it as a net positive. Not a net positive. Spiritual and personal growth. This was probably the most measurably failed goal this year, and that is reconnect, rediscover with spiritual community. The main goal being join a UU congregation and choir by end of year 2022. My main action steps were pick congregation, visit congregation, join choir. I have picked the congregation. That is all I have done. And I have talked to the membership committee on the phone. That is it. I was thinking that maybe next year I'm like, oh, I'll just let it go, but I really don't want to. The more I am descending into kidney failure extravaganza, the more I really want spiritual community, but I need to figure out how that's going to fit into my life. And I think the thing I wasn't thinking through realistically is that I work on Sundays, and Sundays also were my best grocery shopping day. So my Sundays were pretty full. I need to do some major reassessing of how I structure my life to make room for attending a congregation a couple times a month. So that's something to keep in mind for next year. But in terms of this year's goal, I did not meet it. Like, I just didn't. Didn't do it. Financial. Continue to improve both our financial picture and my relationship with money. And the action steps were schedule and follow through on monthly budgeting meetings, contribute $1,000 monthly to savings by end of year 2022, and contribute monthly to my retirement. I wouldn't say this one is kind of washing out at even. It's not washing out as like a finished goal. There's been some improvement. There's been some back steps. I've done the contributing monthly to my retirement, but I've had to put some of that on hold because as I've felt shittier, I haven't made as much money. And so that's one area that I needed to cut back on. Same with putting money into savings. And I'm not talking about money with Jesse as much as I would like to be. So I feel like there have been some small improvements made. The first half of the year was more successful than the second half, let's just say. So definitely this is going to be something I want to add some more oomph to in next year, especially with the added expenses of dialysis. And finally, physical environment. Continue to maintain and add to our home. This was probably in the same category as personal and fun and recreation as one of the more successful categories. I feel really good about my physical environment. The first was to complete a home project each month. Did that. The second was to get regular home maintenance and repairs on rotation or autopilot by end of year 2022. Have done mostly that. I want to get a spreadsheet with all that information on it. I have not done that yet. That is something I will want to do during probably the first part of the year. And then hiring a cleaning service bi-weekly. That's also done. Probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. There are things, little things that I didn't finish. The gallery wall is still not up. The art on the walls is still something I'm working on. But like I said before, when I was talking about my hobbies, our house feels like a home. It feels like it's our home, that we live here, that we've made it ours, and that it's comfortable and that we love it. And there are still, it's a big house. There are still a lot of things to do to continue to dial it in. But in terms of the progress made this year of how our home feels, I feel like this is a big win. So big fan of this goal. I think it went well. And those are my annual goals. Came out of it with some of them feeling like a major win, some of them feeling like I kind of got some progress, but maybe some and then some not progress. And then there were a couple where they were just a big fat, but that's okay because that's how shit goes sometimes. And I know looking back on it and seeing the progress from week to week that I know what went wrong. I know where some of these goals didn't happen. I know why some of them didn't happen. Like I can look back in my planner at my weeks and see exactly why some of this shit didn't happen, which is one of the reasons I love this planning system. The other thing is that of the ones that did not go the way that I wanted them to, like in some of them, I feel maybe I wasn't realistic. And in other ones of them, maybe it was the kidney failure. And some of them, maybe it was just because it just wasn't something I felt like doing. So going into next year, not only do I have the success that I can ride on, I'm not feeling guilty about the ones that didn't go the way I wanted them to, because I can understand why it happened. Whether it was on purpose, or whether it was on accident, or whether it was circumstances, or whether it was me just being lazy. If I understand why, then I don't need to feel guilty. I just need to know what I need to do next time to do a little bit better. That's what I want to leave you with. When you're talking about setting goals for yourself, personal goals, work goals, whatever, and if you reach them, celebrate. And if you don't reach them, assess. Don't feel guilty. Just assess and come out of it with some knowledge. Whether that knowledge is maybe this was not a realistic goal to set, or maybe I need to do things in a slightly different way. Like, if you just feel guilty, all that does is make you miserable. If you go into it with the spirit of, I want to either celebrate and learn what I can from these successes, or assess and learn what I can from these failures. And that's what I'm leaving you here with. So let me know in the comments below, what was one thing you accomplished this year that you are very proud about? I'd love to hear about it. Big or small, doesn't matter. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, friends. Peace.